Wuthering Waves is giving us a choice of a 5-star standard character that we will get guaranteed in our first 80 pulls on the beginner's choice banner. We're also apparently getting another free 5-star of our choice through the mail as an apology for some bugs, which is great. And so because of this, let's talk about all of the 5 stars, what they do, and which one you should choose for your guaranteed 5-star. In this video, summing up my thoughts on all of the 5 stars, helping you decide who to choose. Lastly, I want to mention that the background footage of this video does come from a test server, so keep in mind that things may be different for the official live version, and I will be trying to review characters' kits and give you guys a general idea of what they do, what they excel at, what they're weak at, as well as talk about their power level overall, mostly statements regarding how they work, how they play, and what they provide you with, so that you can get a better idea of who is right for you, even if some exact details change from patch to patch, like notably how since the second closed beta test, the developers did say that they wanted to look into modifying 2 of the 5 stars, Jianxin and Lingyang, but more on that a bit later. And with that said, let's get right into it. For the first character we have to talk about, it is Verina. Verina is an absolutely broken support character. She's a healing support character, and there honestly are not a lot of supports or healers in this game right now. She can give you healing, doesn't need to spend too much time on field, and also gives you a ton of buffs. She can have a sort of follow-up attack alongside your active character, gives all of your party attack and damage buffs, and also has good party-wide healing. Her outro skill is great, and as I said, she does not need to spend a lot of time on field, acting as a very efficient support character. You can run her with so many different characters, and I think that as of right now, because Wuthering Waves on release doesn't have that many really strong support characters, Verina is a 5-star that's going to be of high priority on many accounts, in my opinion, for a long time, because of how efficient she is overall, and also the fact that you need 3 teams for some content, meaning that even if they release future support characters, Verina should still be really good. Because of this, I can almost always recommend her if you're a fan of support characters, her gameplay, or just really care about meta. Next up, we have Calcharo. Calcharo is really cool for many reasons. First of all, Sephiroth, but more importantly, he's an Electro main DPS that does a lot of damage. He's a solid standard banner main DPS character who also synergizes really well with Yinlin, but more on that in a future video when she's actually released. What you need to understand about Calcharo is that he's a character who deals a huge amount of his damage after using his Resonance Liberation, his ultimate, where your attacks will be enhanced and you'll deal a lot of damage, spending a lot of time on Calcharo as a sort of on-field hyper carry. And it will also buff his next intro skill when you swap back into him. Now, something you need to keep in mind with this character is that he does a ton of damage after using his ultimate. You have a fixed amount of time to do all this damage where you have to be on field with him, focusing enemies down, and things can go wrong. Like, you need to execute his combos, enemies can run away, bosses can knock you back if you get hit. But for the most part, a ton of damage inside of this window is good, very satisfying, very strong, and also has room to show off your skill if you can pull off the combos and not make mistakes. Even if you're just mashing your left mouse button, you can get a lot of value out of Calcharo inside of his ultimate as a very strong carry in my experience that I would be happy to recommend. I also want to point out that while Calcharo did get nerfed since the second closed beta, I'm actually recording this after the game's already out since this video got delayed anyways, he just kind of was overtuned, but now he still remains a solid and good DPS option on top of having a very fun and unique playstyle as shown previously. Next up, we have another DPS character with Encore. Encore is a really cool character in my opinion, who has a very unique way of dealing damage. She starts out as a ranged character at a baseline, dealing damage from afar, and then with her ultimate, will start dealing a significant amount more damage, having a very powerful ult that will turn her into a melee carry. She has really fun combos that are pretty easy to use in my experience. You can kind of oonga boonga and get a lot of value out of her, but there are also some rooms for optimization. For example, something you need to be aware of is that her charge attack or heavy attack with her Forte circuit can do a huge amount of burst damage, but the animation is super long. You can get a lot of value out of this by animation canceling or swapping out once the animation starts, where Encore will kind of stay there doing her little thing as you swap out into another character and are able to DPS on them while the animation happens. While I said she's somewhat straightforward to play, there are some things you need to be mindful of, like it being very difficult to parry with her outside of her ultimate. For the most part though, she has really solid damage and does a ton more inside of her ultimate, is a character that I find really cool, very fun to play, and also I like her little sheep puppet things. I think they're really cute. All right, now moving on, we have 2 very unique characters with Jianxin and Lingyang. First of all, for Jianxin, she is very much a jack of all trades in the sense that she kind of does a bit of everything. She's an on-fielder who can build up shields as she does a heavy attack, with this shield getting better and gaining more effects the longer you hold her heavy attack. It's a long and somewhat clunky animation, but it will make you tankier, and then the shield will persist and heal your active character for either your Jianxin or someone else if you choose to swap. Additionally, her skill has a parry where she she won't take damage and will unleash a counter hit if you hold her skill and then get hit. Her ultimate is a form of grouping, essentially the best one we have right now, that can group a lot of enemies efficiently with this sort of vortex, notably being good against light and displaceable enemies. Against bosses or like elite heavy enemies, this won't work, so keep that in mind. It won't really help that much, but she can be really good in AoE situations against a lot of light and displaceable enemies. Additionally, it's worth pointing out that she does give you an ultimate buff on her outro skill to the next character you swap into, who will gain 38% resonance liberation damage for a set amount of time or until they swap. Personally, I think this can be one of the main ways to play her, alongside her shield, grouping, and this big buff on her outro skill, giving her a supportive role that fits the quick swappy style of this game, spending some time on her doing damage, getting a big shield, grouping enemies, and then buffing your next character's ult damage, making this character have, in my opinion, a lot of untapped potential if she's someone that you like. Not a must by any means, but a solid choice if you like the character. Lastly, we have Lingyang. This is actually the first 5-star character I got in the closed beta of Wuthering Waves, and I actually used him as a main DPS for a decent amount of content. Lingyang is a character that acts as a hyper carry. He has a very unique playstyle where he will jump in the air and kind of stay there, float in the air and do a bunch of punches and kicks, attacking really fast, allowing him to do a ton of damage to enemies in his very unique lion dance state, which is unlike any other character. Lingyang can be good at DPSing down a boss or an enemy that you can knock up, and if you enjoy his unique playstyle, then I think he could be a good choice for you. Now, with that in mind, I want to say that how much DPS he can actually do, how good or bad he is, will depend on a lot of things, especially because he is effectively airborne a lot of the times, and things can be weird when that happens. It's a really unique playstyle that I think is very fun and interesting, but it can be hard to like catch up to enemies sometimes, or enemies can have weird hitboxes, or sometimes I noticed getting stuck in animations without really understanding why, even after playing this character for multiple hours. Now, this can be a skill issue. I'm not blaming the character. Just keep in mind that there's a lot of unique mechanics, and it's a very different gameplay when you're using him, as in his lion dance state, he's effectively in the air, running around, dealing fast instances of damage, and being a character that you usually want to spend a lot of time on as a main carry. His DPS can range from fine to good depending on how optimally you can use him, and I am inclined to believe that he will feel smoother in the live version of the game, but at least as far as the general consensus goes, he's not as recommended of a pick as the other DPSs, namely Calcharo or Encore. His playstyle is very unique, he's fun and can still clear content, and since launch, again, future Ziox here, I genuinely have found that he feels less clunky and more satisfying to play, but I can't tell if I just got better at the game and more used to his mechanics, although a big part of me thinks that they did do some improvements here and he genuinely does feel more fluid, more smooth. Still, some clunkiness can happen, but I found less of it, although I could use some other people's testimonies here for confirmation. And so overall, what is the consensus? Obviously, as I said at the start, you should first of all choose who you like. If there's a character that you either want to main, use as your main DPS, or even as a support, someone you just really like and want on your account, or someone whose playstyle suits you, their appearance, visuals, animations, or gameplay is something that you think you'll enjoy, then I think that's what you should go for. Now, obviously, that's a almost cowardly answer. I know you want me to just tell you a character a lot of the times, but before I get there, just understand that if there's a character for you where you really like them and you'll get more enjoyment out of them, then there's no reason not to pick them, because obviously getting more enjoyment out of the game is very important. Now, as far as my recommendations, while things may change, for now, what seems to be the case is that Verina is absolutely broken. She's a support that I highly recommend if you want a support character slash a healer on your account. If you already got her in the beginner pulls, or if you want a DPS to carry you through the game, then either Calcharo or Encore would be my recommendations. They're both a bit different. Calcharo is more popular and synergizes well with Yinlin. He's a top recommendation in my opinion for DPSs, but Encore also has unique gameplay and is very strong if used correctly as well, and I don't think she's that hard to use. Just animation cancel her heavy attack and try not to get hit, because parrying on her can be annoying. Regarding Jianxin and Lingyang, these are characters where it's if you like them, pick them. If not, maybe. With Jianxin in particular, she kind of does a little bit of everything. She can be your one-man or one-woman army, tanking, parrying, shielding, grouping, and also spending time on field. Her animations can be a bit clunky. I think there's a lot of potential. I think a lot of people are going to use her and clear content with her solo, while also being a good support to add to your roster to make you tankier and give you a buff through her outro skill. On a similar note, Lingyang is a solid DPS. I don't think he's as generalistic as the other ones that I mentioned. I personally would choose Calcharo or Encore first, but Lingyang has very unique gameplay, so if you like him and want to master him, then feel free. Again, keep in mind that things may change. I will update a pinned comment if there's new things I want to add. If this video helped, I would love it if you liked and subscribed, and be sure to come check me live on Twitch, as I will be streaming the game when it's out for quite some time. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.